recently, but this is real stuff. And just the other day, was talking with a couple of players, and I don't know how it came up, but we said there was a question posed, and once it was answered by one, all of us started saying, "Oh yeah, me too. Well, here's my experience with this." And before we knew it, we had a group of 15, and everybody in that group were experiencing or had experienced the same type of thing. So Jay wrote a book, and it's not a clinical book. It's a first-hand experience book called Unbreakable. So without further ado, let's open it up, and I'm going to introduce Jay Glazer and, of course, Lane Johnson.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me here. Like you said, I've been around for a while. I started covering the NFL in '93, started fighting in the '90s, been on the NFL and Fox for 20 years, got inducted in the TV Hall of Fame, was on Ballers for 5 years, playing a fucking great-looking Jewish reporter named Jay Glazer. I've done a lot of shit, but I created this big character to kind of cover up the real me. And the real me was a guy who's, clinical depression, anxiety, bipolar, ADHD, and I, last year decided, or I think 2 years ago, decided to come out and write this book to give it words, because we all talk about mental health, but no one describes it. We don't give it words, and as a result of that, we don't have the conversations we need to start having. So for years, I just covered it up. I hid it. Lane, like you were saying, Lane lived with me for 4 months. We trained him in MMA in his second year, and I never said a fucking word to him. He never said a word to me, and obviously Lane's been through it also. Imagine if back then we just started opening up and talking to each other, and that's what we were missing. So this year, or 2 years ago when I came out this, I'm just trying to give it words. And whether you're on my level of depression, anxiety, or not, we're all going through something in this room, right? Social media makes us all think our lives suck. Like, how do you survive? You're comparing yourself to everybody else's filtered fraction of 1 second of one day highlights, or Twitter is just kicking your ass all day, right? So we're all going through something. And we had to isolate a couple of years ago. So I wanted to just give it words for everybody out there. And if you don't have it yourself, or I'm sure you have somebody in your family or that you know that has it, but for me, it's an everyday deal. Every single day of my life, it's hard to get out of bed. And he knows now, and Whitworth knows now, but that shit I never talked about. I mean, every day, I've got to make that decision to get myself out of bed, because when you have this level of, I call it the gray, man, it affects you physically. I feel it in my joints. I feel it the left side of my gut. I feel it behind my rib cage. But I make that decision every day to get out of bed and then work on myself and work at things. But I didn't do that for years. I only went to a therapist after the sky was falling. And that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? You guys, everybody in this room, you guys are so proactive with your physical health. You don't just bench press if you think you're getting weak. Receivers aren't only catching passes if they feel they have the drops. They're doing it constantly. But we only seek help after the sky has fallen. And that doesn't make sense. So by me coming out and talking about it, I'm at least trying to, there shouldn't be a stigma anymore. Everybody in this room, we're all fucked up in here. But you got to be proud of your fucked upness and kind of use that and be proud of your scars moving forward. And we got to do it together. So there's not enough therapists for us yet, but everybody in here could be a therapist to each other. We could all lean into each other and lean into our teammates, and it's a much easier existence when you got a whole team to walk this walk with. Here's one of my teammates right here.
Yeah, so, my journey in the mental health world really started, after I left high school. I put a lot of pressure on myself to go to a Division I university. I played at a high school with, like 30 kids in my class, so not very big. So, I first started feeling or got diagnosed with an anxiety disorder in Oklahoma. And, when I got there, I didn't play for several years because I was dealing with these issues. I didn't tell anybody. I kept to myself until, eventually my roommate kind of opened up to me with what he was dealing with. And then, the more I talked and discussed it with him, he found out how much of the team had a similar kind of mindset and approach and fear. And, you know, a lot of times it's easier to avoid it and run from it. And I think an athlete's perspective is, you know, the more that I can accomplish, the more that I gain, the more accolades I attain, the easier it is. And that was the big illusion. So, I had an injury in 2019. I tore my deltoid and I had tightrope surgery, and I played for about 7 games and I retore it again. And so when I came back the next year to play, you know, I didn't have the same mobility in my left ankle, and I wasn't the same guy on tape, at least to me, in some of the aspects of the game. And so, you know, when I took up my leave of absence, I was really talking about retiring. I wanted to, you know, if I couldn't be the player that I was, I didn't want to put that shit on film for the world to see. So, yeah, it was really, you know, I spent a period of my time in my life running from my emotions. And, you know, like we talked about today, we talked a majority about football, the physical stuff. And if you don't work as hard on yourself mentally and trying to establish the person you want to be off the field, you know, it's going to snowball and make a greater problem for yourself. I see a lot of guys that football is their identity. It consumes them. And then when the game is over, you know, they've worked on that portion their whole life and they didn't work on anything else. And so I think it was very, very eye-opening when Brian Dawkins spoke to the team. You know, everybody knows who he is in the room. But, you know, he talked about, you know, his battle. I remember talking to Dom, my security for the Eagles. You know, multiple times he's been to Brian's house after a game. You know, he was suicidal. He, you know, the most established safety in the league at the time, and he's dealing with these injuries. So it doesn't matter who you are. But I think the resources we have now, it allows athletes to get this off their chest. I remember going to the combine and reading a stat, you know, 40 to 50% of all athletes that are at the combine have some sort of disorder. You're playing, you know, a primal sport, national television. You have a whole lot of new money coming your way and a new lifestyle, and, you know, they don't give you a booklet or a pamphlet to deal with that. So, you know, over the course of the past couple of years, I worked with a guy named Brian Kane, a mental performance coach who works with a lot of UFC guys, a lot of football players, Hall of Fame guys. You know, a lot of stuff with us is, you know, we hold on to stuff. We won't let stuff go. And I remember him talking about George St. Pierre. He was fighting Matt Serra, and it was kind of the fight to cement his legacy as kind of the greatest of all time. And he went out there and got knocked out. And, you know, so he had the rematch, and he couldn't just think about all the bad shit that happened with him. You know, the embarrassment, stuff people were saying. And so he made him write that shit on a brick. And every negative, you know, thing that was coming to mind, and he carried it around with him just to remind him, you know, up until the fight, to remind him of, you know, how heavy a burden can be when you hold on to stuff and you don't let stuff go. But yeah, I mean, I encourage everybody to, you know, I think in a private setting to, you know, work on yourself. And then I feel like the help that we have now, the resources we have, you know, it allows players to be the best versions of themselves. When you have a happy player off the field, happy players make more productive players on the field. So, you know, I encourage everybody to, you know, reach out and really learn your teammates. You know, there's lots of guys that I played with. I'm not going to say their names, but guys that I've been with in the league for a long time. I never knew, you know, what they were battling, some of the issues. But, you know, as this stuff has become more public, people's problems have been able to fix a lot of people's other problems. Being open about this has encouraged, you know, athletes to heal and to, you know, be the best versions of themselves.
We you know, again, Lane and I have talked about this quite a bit. I've been on over 30 antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds. They haven't worked. So in the past, when the anxiety would flare up and the depression would flare up, and my friends in here like Hutch and Whit, these guys know, I would just take a bunch of Vicodin and drink and go out and just try and hide this shit. And that was not a good combination for me or anybody I was around. And again, I just never talked to anybody about this. And my best friend, and a lot of people in here know that I've ever had in this league from day one, is Michael Strahan. 1993, he and I latched on each other. Me and the other reporters did not get along too well. Stray, it took him a little while to get going, and we just latched on each other. So for 30-something years, he and I we've lived together, we've constantly, everything. And it wasn't until 2 years ago where I had a bad night, and the beast just got out of the box. I know you have that same saying, I have that saying. And it was the first time I ever called him. We were going to dinner, and I said, bro, I can't go to dinner tonight. So why not? I said, man, this shit just got away from me. I just got to kind of sleep this one off. And he said, you want me to come over? I said, no. He said, you want to talk about it? I said, no. And he goes, why have you never told me this? I said, I don't make up the rules of this thing. For whatever reason with you, I felt ashamed, and with everybody else. And he said, yeah, but you've taken away my ability to be your best friend for 30 years by not talking to me about it. Every time I now have something, a really bad one, the beast gets out of the box, I now know I call him, I can call Wit, I call the fucking Rock. This guy's the busiest guy in the world. He wrote the foreword to my book because he said, shit, you're going to be the voice for the grave for all of us. Not you guys, us. We're all going through it. The point of this is every single person that I have talked to about this, head coaches, GMs, players, fighters, you name it, not one of them has called me a wuss. None of it told me to suck it up. None of it said, stop, Jay, stop. Nobody. Every single one of them has been there for me, and it's gotten us closer together also. And then as a result of that, you have friends like this that say, shit, now I know to open up to you. And that's invaluable to have. We didn't know we could turn to teammates in your locker room. In the fight community, we kind of, me and Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell, we used to open up to each other because we were like, everybody thinks we're fucked up anyway. We're okay. But the rest of the world, it really wasn't okay. And that's where it's pretty bad when you can only feel you can open up and you feel in a cage is the safest place to open up. That's a little odd, it's a little weird. But now I realize, man, there's everybody out there who really wants to be there for you. And, I think since you've opened up also, Lane, right? It's like you've seen how many people didn't shy away from you, but instead embraced you.
Yeah, I just think the response has been good. Obviously it's something I wanted to keep private, but you play in a public sport, stuff becomes public. But
You can't keep it private. You show up to the game.
yeah, exactly. So it's kind of hard to do that, but really it goes down to working on your mind. It works on learning how to focus. It's learning how to block distractions. It's learning how to plan out your day the night before and not let procrastination build up. I believe that's a big part of it. But yeah, it's really been eye-opening. I think, when Michael Phelps talked about his issues, Tyson Fury, mountain of men that are the prime of their sports can be crippled by something. And it's a silent killer. Guys go home at night and don't talk about that shit and let it eat them up. There's an NFL player who's no longer with us, and he had a quote that, I'm only what my coach says I am. And so when you ride that roller coaster, you're susceptible to hit some real low lows. But yeah, really, man, it's about opening up the conversation. I know I've had a lot of players come up to me and talk about it. I know it's a great thing. It's affecting a lot of the young guys now. The older guys, they grew up in an era where social media wasn't available. Your shit wasn't public. It wasn't out there, so they didn't have to deal with these issues. But I feel like colleges now with the NIL, all the new money. I feel like there's a lot of unlimited distractions. So I encourage y'all to reach out, find your resources. There's lots of educated people that can make your life a whole lot better, make you a better player, make you a better father, a better husband, a better friend. And it's a lot of hard work. You really have to look inside yourself and say, okay, where are my faults at? Where can I get better? And so a lot of it is about being honest with yourself and trying to establish where you want to go, and where you want to be.
One of the biggest things, and first I remember when Lane got hurt in 2019, Giants Monday Night Football. I'll never forget it. I was on the first plane out to Philly. We wanted to treat him actually with a new fit with the water baths because Lane had already made up in his mind, fuck that, he was going to try to play. regardless, not knowing the severity of it. But it was just the conversations we had during that time right after just kind of put things in perspective of like the pressure that he was feeling and shit, the pressure that I was feeling, man. You guys would be surprised, and I use this quote a lot, you would be surprised at how many people at the top have been at rock bottom. I've been at my rock bottom. One of the best things that I ever did was understanding that it was okay not to be okay. And that when I started to get help in 2016, it has really changed my life and the trajectory of my life, because I was carrying around so many things from upbringing to like where I grew up, how I grew up. But the fact of the matter is, and I got my cousin right here, he'll tell you, growing up, we went to more celebrations of life than celebrating life. We bury so many of our friends, we bury so many of our loved ones, some naturally and most of them tragically. And so it was a thing that, you know, you just kind of tuck it away and you keep fucking going. But when you keep going, you become this heavy weight of luggage, and you try to unpack it, and it's just more and more shit in the luggage that you can't unpack. At that point, there are professionals that will help you unpack that luggage. And that's one thing that really helped me in 2016 and beyond, and continue to get help, because if not, like you can fall into the void real quick, man. And I'm not an NFL player. I'm not going out there to perform and to play in front of 80,000 people. And the pressure that you guys are now, even at college, the pressure that you guys are under, where, you know, you got slappies that don't even know what you're supposed to do, but then like going over the top on social media, you know, you feel ashamed. Some of us grew up where there was a notion that like, oh no, you're crazy if you go talk to somebody. I remember I had an ex-girlfriend, and when I told her that I was getting help and that she needed to probably get help too, her first reply was, I'm not crazy. Okay, that right there is the stigma that we're talking about, right? Where you're associating it that it's something wrong with you that you can't talk about. But for me, just finding those strategies to really continue to grow. And like they said, it's working on yourself. And we talked about in the football aspect, being clear, all right? Where am I? Where do I want to be? What are my controllables? What's keeping me from being there? Who do I have to let go on this journey? How do I want to be remembered? All right, legacy-wise. Those are kind of some of the things that I always recalibrate with. And then the other thing, like Lane said, is coming up with a schedule and regimen. You guys all in this room have seen, I'm up at 3 a.m. and I'm hitting what the fuck hour, you know? And that's just me either pushing the sled or pulling the sled. And all that is, it's 60 to 90 minutes of me playing whatever the fuck I want. Sometimes there's no music at all, but it is time I control at the beginning of the morning. I can control that. There's so many things in life we can't control, especially the mind sometimes, but we could definitely work on it and train it as a skill. And that's one of the things that helps me escape every single morning, is when I can come in here and just let it go and do whatever the hell I need to do to sweat it out. A lot of times I have great ideas that come from those moments of clarity in that clarity session.
And I think, you know, a problem probably everybody goes through in this room also, and is you're ingrained. We're trying to get you to do the opposite of what you're ingrained to do, right? So we're training guys for years, like, right? Our fight team, like, hey, don't put your hands on your hips. You're hurt. Don't show it. You're tired. Don't fucking show it. You never show it. That's the problem. It's great for sports. It's what you need for football. It's what you need for fighting, but doesn't work in between our ears for our mental health. So that's one of the things that we kind of need to do, is go, okay, I could do that on the field, but the rest of my time, I've got to start opening up. I've got to start showing it. I've got to start leaning into people. And I know it's the opposite of everything everybody in here has been taught and trained to do, but something's got to move here. It's just a different world than we've ever been, you know, used to. And again, to fully describe it, for anybody in here, just so I want to describe it just in case somebody goes, oh, okay, shit, that's what it is. So I'm okay. Him too. All right. So your depression, at least for me, when I wake up every day thinking the sky is falling, everybody hates you. What did I do yesterday to fuck someone up? Or what did I do to insult somebody or do something wrong, and you have this guilt factor that just starts getting after you and getting after you and getting after you. And the anxiety, which I've had an anxiety attack every time I've ever been on TV since my first one was 2005, and then it became habitual. Man, your hands start shaking, you start sweating, your eyes start going back and forth like this. You feel like you're having a heart attack. And for those first, I think for the next 12 years, I was getting my heart checked out for a heart attack until I heard Terry Bradshaw talk about it one day in our green room. And I was like, oh, I think that's what I have. I think that's what's been wrong with me. And that's why I'm trying to talk about it here also, so anybody else that can have that moment that I had with Terry going, oh shit, okay, I got that too. If you have it in this room, there's nothing wrong with you. You're okay. Good chance is half the table right now sitting next to you on your right and your left is going through it also. So I just want to, again, give it words so everybody in here realizes, all right, there is zero wrong with you. And if you are having an anxiety attack, you're safe. It's hard to feel, right, when you're going through it, that you're actually safe. And the mind is a powerful weapon to get you to think, hey, your world is crashing down upon you right now. It's not, but you got to start working at it now to convince those roommates in your head that that's not the way you're going, and you're going to be okay.
Excellent, excellent. Like, if you guys have any questions, if there are any questions out there, I know, again, this is a setting that is, it's hard to be vulnerable with this many people. It's hard to be outward, but, we're getting ready to break for lunch. And grab me, grab Jay, grab Lane, and then here we got a sports performance psychologist right here, Gary Frazier. Grab him, pull him to a side, right here at the front table. Have those conversations, make those introductions. There's resources out there. There's things that can help you cope and to understand and help you unpack. And then also get Jay's book, man. It is again, it's not clinical. Like most of the things that we read about mental health and depression and anxiety are from a clinical standpoint, which is great, but sometimes it's being able to read the person who's actually done it, the guy in the arena in this account, all right? So we'll break for lunch, we'll come back, we'll talk a little run game and more run game, combo blocks, and then we'll talk about body work and career longevity, all right? So we've got, we wanna thank our partners over here in Babes, and then we also have Hutchins, all right? So we've got Rita's Ice here as well, Italian Ice outside. So go ahead and get your food on the wall over here and then head out and get your icy with Rita's Italian Ice. Ready, break.